Hey everyone, it's Everything Energy with Tina and Jeremy. I'm Jeremy Bills.
And I'm Tina Falk. How are you?
How's everyone doing? How are you doing, Tina?
Well, hell. it's
We
it's
both had a
Friday.
morning.
It's crazy, right? And you and I are kind of like that, where, life is happening, we're in our own little world, and then we have a moment where we can come together and talk, and we're like, you too? Holy shit, yeah, me too.
Yeah, today's been kind of weird. I woke up really early and I've been having a bunch of technical issues, and I'm like, what is going on? Is Mercury
Mm,
retrograde or something like that? And
hmm
then just trying to get on this call today, we were having technical difficulties with my coloring, the sound. Yeah.
You getting on the call.
Me getting on the call, getting
Yeah.
permission to get on the call, like, yeah, it's been lots of fun this morning.
Yeah. And I do want to say thanks for hanging in here with us. We are definitely learning as we go. We're
Yes.
learning a lot every single time. As you see, our microphones keep getting closer and closer to our mouths because our tech guy is like, we can't hear you. You're not
Yeah.
clear enough. So you're going to see changes. You're going to hear changes. And that's because we're Aries people and we embrace change.
We do. We do, and we get really pissed off about these technical issues, right?
Yeah.
I'm
hmm
too loud, Tina's too quiet, shut Jeremy up and turn Tina up. Yeah, like, it's a big thing, so
yeah.
we're still working out all the kinks, so thank you so much for listening and subscribing. If you haven't subscribed, please
hmm
subscribe below, and comment below what you'd like to hear from us.
hmm
What do you want to hear us talk about?
Yeah, and if there's something that we're saying, like comment as it we're here. Be
Yeah,
a part of this conversation because it just
yeah,
doesn't end at the end of the video. So
no,
I love getting notifications that someone's commented and it's like, who is it? What did they say? What
I
video did
know
they watch? It's so exciting.
it is.
Okay, so are we ready for this?
We're ready for this. We're going to
Mhm,
continue the conversation from last time a little bit. We talked about why the energy is so intense. We're talking
mhm.
about the ideology of fire energy, burning off everything that no longer serves us. But there's some of that energy that's really trying to hang on, right? There's that old kind of energy that's like, it doesn't want to go. It knows it's on its way out, but it's like, it doesn't want to move on.
Yeah, that it's a crotchety, old, stubborn, bullheaded, I'm not budging. You're going to have to take me down with the ship. It's that
Yeah.
even just those sayings are ancient,
Yeah.
right? It's just
Mhm.
kind of crazy, this old energy and how stubborn it is and resistant. And
Yeah.
when we first, so at the beginning of the month, we have a meeting, right? We go to lunch, we have a brainstorming meeting. What do we want to talk about this month?
Mhm.
And I don't know how long we were sitting talking about this topic. And I was like, why don't we have the cameras and the microphones on right now? Because
Right.
it was such a good conversation. And so even as I'm talking, I'm remembering parts of it that I want to try to remember to bring up.
Yeah.
I The old energy is we have to it's there, right? So
Mhm.
how we respond to it, oh my gosh. Okay, so something's coming up that I have to share. My first introduction to this woo-woo stuff, outside of like the first book I ever read about woo-woo stuff back
Mhm.
in the 90s, was Out on a Limb by Shirley MacLaine, where she talks about reincarnation.
Oh my gosh. I love
Yeah.
Shirley MacLaine.
Yeah. Isn't she the best?
Love her.
Yeah. And I've lost my train of thought.
Well, Shirley MacLaine would
I
lose her train of thought too. I've seen her in interviews. She's like, "I don't know what the fuck I was talking about."
I'm channeling Shirley MacLaine.
You are.
Oh my gosh,
So
what was the
you
intention
read
of
Out
that?
on a Limb. It was your
Mhm.
introduction to woo-woo stuff.
Oh, thank you. So the next big thing is I was invited to watch or go to see Ptah. Ptah is an energy channeled by King. Jani King, I
Okay.
think that's her name.
I've never
She's
heard.
yeah, so she's from Australia or I think she's from New Zealand. And I this woman embodied this entity and her voice changed, her everything changed and it freaked me out. Part
Oh
of me
yeah.
wanted to I'm out the door. What I don't know what the hell this is. Part of me wanted to laugh cuz this was crazy. If it was you, you'd probably be laughing.
I would.
And
Oh,
I it was this is my first time exposed and I got the nerve to stand up and ask a question.
oh, cool.
And my oldest child was 4 months old. And I'm sitting in this audience and I stood up and I can't remember the exact question I asked, but I asked, "What do I do? How do I teach my child um, to be okay in this world?" And she walked right up the aisle to me and she looked at me. And if you've ever been to a channel, they're they're very humorous. The
Hmm.
entities are very funny because they're
Yeah.
keeping it light, right? Like you humans, you're just stressing this stuff. So when there are fearful moments in the world, teach or you would treat that person. And the reason I'm saying this is we would treat this old energy,
Hmm.
the people, the system, the structure, the idea, this cloud that's still hanging over us. She said, if you saw a child weeping or afraid on the side of the road, what would you do? Would you go kick dirt on it and walk away?
Yeah.
No. You would
No.
walk up to it and you would comfort that child.
Hmm.
So a lot of this energy is afraid.
Yeah.
They're afraid of losing who they are and what they've worked so hard for and what they stand for. And so, as angry as I get, and as much as I, you know, want to just toot my horn about who I think they are and what they're doing,
Hmm.
it's based in fear.
Yeah.
And that culture is raised in was is fear based, right? Don't you
Hmm.
think? I mean, think about
100%.
your folks and my folks.
Hmm.
Yeah.
End of
So,
the world.
mm,
Everything's, henny penny, the sky is falling down.
mm,
Everything's terrible, watch out, prepare. Yeah, it's
mhm,
all that. It's all that rigmarole.
yeah. So it's interesting that that just came up because it never dawned on me to treat them and comfort them,
Hmm.
and say everything's going to be okay. We have to trust these younger generations. Um, there's just so much happening. You and I like to talk about current events because we like to
Hmm.
look at charts. We like to
Yeah.
look at what's happening in the world so that we can help our clients understand what's happening in the world and why their charts, you know, doing this or that. I have notes and they're kind of all over the place. But there's some things that are coming up in on the news, in politics that are reeking of old energy.
Hmm. 100%.
These bans on things that we used to have freedom to have. This whatever this ban is in Arizona is just
It's disgusting.
it's yeah, that's a great word for it. That it's so outdated, it's so barbaric, it's so inappropriate. Um, and then did you hear about that commencement speech by that Kansas City
Oh
Chiefs?
God. Well, you know that you know what's come out about him, right?
No.
He's gay. He had lots of affairs with other football players and cheerleaders in college, and I'm just like, yeah, that
Mhm.
is self-loathing. And I've told people this for years. Most men that are homophobic are gay. They
Mm.
loathe themselves. They hate something about themselves, so they have to point the finger. And of
Mm.
course, it's not necessarily a self-loathing of um, themselves. It's a loathing of the divine feminine because gay
Mhm.
men have a natural divine feminine instinct. So they're
Mhm.
actually hating on women when they're hating on gay men. They're hating on that divine
Mhm.
feminine vibration. They can't handle it. And this is
Right.
what you're saying about,
Mhm.
would you kick dirt in the face of a little child? No, you would go and comfort the child.
Mhm.
That's a very divine feminine instinct.
Mm.
So for that guy to get up there and say women should be barefoot and pregnant and that's their vocation in life.
Yeah.
Oh, look in the mirror, dude. You
Yeah.
got
For
married
him
to
to
a woman
even
you didn't want to.
Yeah, and to speak for women, the arrogance of that is just appalling. It's just crazy, and that's the old thing, like I told you the other day, I'm listening to this audiobook, and it's really, really good. She's an amazing storyteller. She's narrating it. It's called Bad Mormon by Heather Gay, and she's what all of these conversations that you and I have on a personal level off camera are a
Mhm.
lot around that, where it's this the old energy is patriarchal. There was
100%.
rules that were created by men, that was medicine created by men. This is the way that the procedures and the protocols, it's the school structure, was all men energy doing that, the religions, everything. And that's why it's so tough to go from yang to yin, because we live on such a polarizing planet. And that's
Mhm.
why it's so extreme, because there's people that are trying to hold space for the other side. And that patriarchal energy is so ingrained in us.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
so indoctrinated in us. It's hard to shake. I can't tell you how many people or how many books I've listened to with people, and this, I'm not meant to make this about the LDS church, but there's a reprogramming that has to happen when you leave the church.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it's a lifelong reprogramming.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I've been out of the church for more than 25 years. I still wake up with panic attacks thinking that I'm at Salt Lake City International Airport and the prophet is waiting at the airport saying you have to go back out on a mission. Like,
Mm.
it's a reprogramming that is lifelong. When you are conditioned to believe something
Mm-hmm.
and you're in a cult and that information is beaten into your head and programmed into your head, getting that information out of your head is very, very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a freedom in the reprogramming, even though it's a lifelong process.
Yeah. And that programming that you're speaking about is also the programming that we have to have our children vaccinated on this vaccination schedule, or these are the years that they have to go to school, and this is what their school day is going to look like, and this is the text that they have to understand and graduate with.
Mm,
It's indoctrinated in everything that we do. Oh, the FDA says this and all of this says this. It's just overwhelming, and I'm thrilled that things are being shook to the core
yeah,
and
me
people
too.
are struggling. It sucks that we're struggling, but this is part of that birthing process. When
Yeah,
you're in labor, it's painful, it's scary. You
yeah,
don't know what's going to happen, but you have to keep pushing. You have to, see things through to the end here.
yeah.
Now, one of the things that you've said to me a couple times, and you said this at the lunch, is I says, I want to talk about Harvey Weinstein because he's resurrected. Talk about old energy. He
Mhm,
went to prison because of an old mindset, right?
mhm,
That patriarchal white male privilege mindset that I can do whatever I want, get away
mhm.
with it. He's resurrected, right? That's just another thing, like whether it's this Harrison Butker from the Chiefs or the abortion thing from Arizona, ongoing stuff.
Mhm.
When I said I want to talk about this topic, you're like, but I really shouldn't say anything. I don't really have my place.
Yeah.
Why did you say that?
Let me expound on that.
Mhm.
Um, I spent 25 years being a hairstylist, and it was a huge honor of my life. And the reason why I call it an honor is because hair really isn't about doing hair. And I would say probably 90% of my clientele were women. And something that I learned in hair school within about 6 months is that I'm really, really good at talking, but at the time I was not good at listening. I come from a family of they like to talk at you rather than listen to the words coming out of your mouth. They're constantly thinking about what they're going to say next instead of hearing the conversation. And so hair school was like boot camp for me because I had to sit and listen. I had to actually hear what people were saying to me. And after a couple of years doing hair, I realized that hair had nothing to do with doing hair. It had to be, I had to choose to be a safe place for women to come, sit in the chair, and not be mansplained to, and not be talked down to. And once I realized that a lot of men, including gay men, still mansplain to women and explain how they're feeling to them, and that just can't, that's got to stop. So I have this belief that, men commenting on abortion, shut up. You're not a woman. You don't get to say anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
Harvey Weinstein, I can speak to a little bit because I I was molested as a child. I'm a sexual abuse
Mm-hmm.
survivor myself, so I can speak on that issue from my perspective. But I have a really hard time when men start explaining why things should be the way they are because
Mm-hmm.
and speaking to female issues. Like I said, I being a hairstylist was a huge honor because I felt like I could be a safe space for women to
Mm-hmm.
communicate. So
Yeah.
that's what I wanted to clarify. That's what I meant by that. I can't hear you.
Okay. I unmuted. Sorry about that. I appreciate that your the lesson that you learned through all that and that you stepped into that because a lot
Mhm.
of men aren't going to, oh, well, I'm going to do
Yeah.
whatever I want to do. But I love that about you. And however, there's something else too that you've told me
Okay.
because I think if you're a man, you stand behind the women in your life, right?
100%.
How do
Mhm.
you want me to vote? Do you want me how can I support you? What do you need? Rather than having an opinion about it, stand next to or behind the women in your life.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Yes.
The other thing that you've talked to me about, which I find it when you first said this to me, I found it absolutely fascinating because it had never dawned on me, but it's so effing true. Is the LGBTQ plus community, any minorities, women, we should all be band together because this is affecting every single
Every
one of us.
every person. If women lose their rights, everyone loses their rights.
Hmm.
100%.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's
stay
can
old.
I kind of want to share a story
Hmm.
about something that's coming up from my hair years, but I
Yeah.
one of my favorite couples, they actually came in together, a husband and a wife, and they were my favorite clients. I loved them. They came to me for about 20 years. They came for monthly haircuts for 20 years. I loved them. I I you know at the beginning of my career, they came to me because their daughter found me and she was in high school, and they were just the best. And they both worked at the same government agency, and they both did the same job. They both graduated in the same way. And he was always higher up in the upper echelon of management. And she was kind of gaining on him, and she was getting higher up. And she got a position that was higher than him. And it took her 20 years to get to that position. And he was like, we were talking about it, and he's like, I just don't get it. Like, I know that things are dangerous right now. And one of my female coworkers, I offered to walk her to her car. And she said, no, I've got a can of mace instead. And he goes, why would she do that? And me and his wife kind of looked at each other and we started giggling. Like, why don't you get it? Like, what's the problem? What he's like, I'm just really confused because I was gonna, protect her. And I asked him, I said, how does she know that? How does she know that you're not going to take advantage of her? She was safer with that can of mace than she was
Mm,
with you. And he goes, I
mhm,
resent that. And I said, yeah, you should resent that.
mhm.
And you should ask that question. Why would she be afraid of me? Well, because you're a man. I said, how much longer and harder did your wife have to work to get the same position that you got? I
Wow.
said, let me ask you a question. She works the same position, but how much more money do you make than she does? And she was sitting in the chair and she was laughing hysterically. Like, she's like, how do you know all of this? And I said, I was a hairstylist for 25 years. I've been hearing these stories for years.
Mhm.
And these are things that men don't even think about.
Mm.
They don't
Yeah.
think about, okay, if a man thinks I'm just going to go grocery shopping and it's 11 p.m. at night, he's going
Mhm.
to get in the car, he's going to go grab some milk. No
Mhm.
problem. He'll
A
park
white
anywhere in
man.
the parking lot. A white man,
White
of course.
man.
Man, right. A white straight man, let me
Yeah.
clarify.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Um, I don't like to go shopping after dark.
Mhm.
And if I do, I park right under the light or as close to the door as I possibly can.
Mhm.
That's how women feel. And
Yeah.
I'm a man. Even though
Mhm.
I'm a gay man, I'm a man. So
Mhm.
I'm not as much at risk as a woman going at 11 p.m. to get some milk.
Mhm.
So these are the things that men don't think about at all.
Yeah.
They just don't register it. And
Yeah.
when me and her looked over at him and we just saw all of the blood leave his face, he's like, "Oh my God." And I said, "Yeah." I said, "You have a daughter." And he goes,
Mm.
"Oh my God." And I said, "Yeah, yeah."
Yeah, we
So
need to
that's what we're
feel
talking
yeah, and it's easy to feel like we're alone, right? That it's just us or
Mhm,
it's just women or it's just, um, Black people or it's just Native Americans or just queer people. It's not.
mhm,
It's anybody that's not out there making the big decisions, that's
mhm.
got their finger on the button,
Yeah,
that's making writing the checks for all this stuff. So, I know this is kinda getting political, and controversial, but that's who we are. I
yeah,
like this kind of conversation. But is there anything else? Do you think we should pull up Harry Weinstein's
yeah.
chart?
Let's take a look. I'm
Oh,
really interested to see.
okay.
Okay, pig, rat, rabbit, dragon. Okay. I
So
haven't looked at by the way, I haven't looked at this, so
I haven't
this is
either.
I'm seeing this for the
I
first
put
we're
the
both seeing this
information.
for the first time.
Yeah, I put the information and then I take a look. Oops, I'm moving stuff around here.
Um, wow, no earth, no wood. Interesting. Okay. Do you wanna start or do you want me to start?
Go ahead. I'd love to hear from you first. What stands out?
Okay, so this is what I find fascinating. I find it fascinating that okay, so when you look at this chart, the top element that says self above it is the master element. This
Mhm.
is the natural element that this person possesses. The one that's right after it, where the arrow is pointing, is wood, and there's 0% wood. That's your output, but it's also your recognition, what you get recognized for. It's applause. It's
Mhm.
you did a great job. Well, he has 0% of this. Now, I've seen this work in two separate ways. I've seen it work in the way of why doesn't anyone see me? Why doesn't anyone appreciate me? But I've also seen it work in a good, nobody can see me.
Mm.
Nobody's going to watch and nobody's going to see what I'm going to do.
Whoa. Holy shit.
Goosebumps, right?
Yes.
There's a way to use these charts in the negative that's so powerful.
Mhm.
Wood is the element of connection. Wood has a root system. When you look at underneath the dirt and you see the root system of a tree, it connects to other trees. It's in the interconnectedness of humanity. He
Mhm.
has none of that in his chart.
Mhm.
No connection,
No compassion.
no compassion. That's what I see right off the bat. What do you
Yeah.
see?
That's that's really cool. Yeah, when you are lacking that element, you don't feel like you're a part of the greater whole. You feel alone. You feel like you're isolated, which would
Mhm.
mean, oh, I can do whatever I want. It's and a lot of it has to do with what a lot of what you're saying is the position of the wood. It's
Mhm.
as opposed to a different position on that wheel,
Yeah.
um, and the lack of compassion. Definitely, when there's zero wood. Like, how do you get from in his element wheel, how do you get from water to fire without wood, right?
Right.
The first thing that stands out to me is the high metal, high water combination.
Mhm.
Water is sexuality, and almost half of his chart is water.
Mhm.
Metal is desire, which is almost half of his chart.
Yeah.
So 92.5% of his chart is highly sexual desire.
Mhm.
Plus, he has a pig in his emotional pillar, which is an insatiable appetite,
Yeah.
doesn't have boundaries. Water does not have boundaries. They don't know how to say no.
Yeah.
They don't read the room. They don't pick up those social cues.
Mhm.
And then he has no earth. And where earth in his chart is what controls his water. It's what would give him boundaries. It's what would make him a responsible citizen or human being. It's like self discipline. He
Mhm.
doesn't have that. It's, it's non existent.
Yeah.
So he's got an extreme chart. And that would
Very.
only manifest in an extreme person with extreme
Mhm.
behavior and extreme life
Yeah.
because he's out of balance.
Yeah. Totally out of balance. He also has 2 peach blossoms, which are the rat and the rabbit.
Hmm.
Those are highly sensual, sexual energy.
Hmm.
Um, and then he's got the dragon as the year animal, and the dragon is the narcissist.
Uh-huh.
I get to do whatever I want, whenever I want, and no boundaries.
You know how else the narcissistic energy is showing up? In the
Mm,
element wheel.
yeah.
He's the self, and the metal is what is given to him. So it's all
Yeah.
about gimme, gimme, gimme,
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
That's where all his energy is not about what am I giving to society? What am I
No.
contributing? How am I listening to what other people are saying? It's all
Yeah.
about just more, more, more.
And it's because that metal is what supports him, and water is the self. So there's this ping pong effect of what can you do for me? Make me better, make me bigger, give me what I want. And it
Hmm.
just stays in that sphere. It doesn't really leave. It doesn't
Mm-mm.
really add to any other part of the chart.
No. And that much metal makes his water toxic.
Yeah, very toxic. It's so interesting. I love astrology because you can see the patterns in someone's natal chart.
Hmm.
You can see how all of that manifests.
So, do you want to talk about his Western chart? Is there anything else here?
I want to hit one more thing.
Hmm.
He has the penalty of the rat and the rabbit. I have that in my chart as well.
Hmm.
And it's unkindness. It's saying things that, come out of your mouth before you think about it, right?
Hmm.
It's that and it's between his body and his mind.
Hmm. And the rat and rabbit are just promiscuous,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And he has no
So
control. His
no
fire,
control.
no control. That water can't, he has nothing to control. And when people don't have something to control, they seek to control.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I don't
Anything.
have anything to do, so I'm going to create problems so
Yeah.
that I have something to do.
Anything and anyone.
Hmm.
Anything that they and also anything that's easy to control. We're talking about a person
Mm,
who has unbelievable amounts of power in Hollywood.
yeah.
And piggybacking on what we were just talking about with the conversation of the male experience as opposed to the female experience, women have to work 50 times more hard than men to do anything to get a
Hmm.
fraction of the pay. So if
Yeah.
you've got this powerful man that is holding all of the keys to the kingdom, and he's saying, this is what you have to do to be successful, my
Mm,
heart just goes out to all of those women, all of the
mm,
survivors of what he put them through. It's tragic.
it is. Absolutely. And the fact that he's, you know, at it again,
He's
you
at it
know,
again. Okay, we're going back to what we were talking about. This old energy is holding on. They are not budging. They don't want to
mhm.
budge. Here's the good news. The old energy is going away regardless of whether it wants to or not.
That's
It's
right.
this it's the
Mhm.
circle of life.
Mhm.
Thank goodness. Right? Luckily this person can't live forever. So, yeah. Okay,
Okay.
so here's this Western chart. Okay, so right off the bat, he has his rising sign is Scorpio, and the rising sign is the sign that's right in between the 12th house and the first house. It's that little purple glyph that has it looks like the M with the little pointer, the little arrow. Scorpio is the sign of extremes, and it's also the sign of sexual energy. He also, in his first house, has Mars, the planet of sexual desire, in its home sign of Scorpio. And it's in his first house of personality. Who he is as a person is wrapped up in his own sexual energy. You can see the red lines that are coming away from Mars. The first one is the line that kind of goes up on a diagonal. That's what's called a square. And Mars, when it's setting off a challenge or a square to Pluto, Pluto is the planet of sexual energy. Mars is the planet of sexual desire. When there's a conflict there, when there's tension there, it's extreme and it's aggressive and it's violent. This is
Mm,
a violent person we're talking
mm,
about. And then his sun down in the fifth house is in the sign of Pisces. And Pisces is the sign of endings, it's the sign of no boundaries. I can
mm,
remember a couple of years ago, I was talking to my husband about this. My husband understands astrology too. And my progressed moon, which is the timer of your life, was moving through the sign of Pisces. And I don't have a lot of Pisces energy in my chart. And I just said, I feel like I'm drowning in this ocean and I'm falling to the bottom of the ocean. And my
mm,
husband reminded me, there's no bottom of the ocean with Pisces. It's an endless abyss.
mm. I feel
This is
that.
why he doesn't have any boundaries
Mm,
and why he's so stubborn to hang on. Scorpio is a fixed sign. He has a fixed chart. It's all about him. He is not going to
mm,
budge. And with that Piscean energy, he's like, not only am I not going to budge, but I don't have to be held accountable for anything that I've done wrong.
mm. Wow.
So when you take both of the charts, that's why I love, understanding Western and Eastern astrology is when you fuse them together and you can kind of see coming from both perspectives how they fit together like a puzzle piece. It's
Hmm.
it's just kind of interesting.
It really is interesting. Oh my goodness. Um, Not that we have time to pull charts for every sexual offender out there or want to. But it is insightful. And I just want to reiterate that from my understanding and my experience, excuse me, I need to. We typically come in the shadow aspects of our charts.
Yeah.
Because we've chosen this time to be born. We've chosen these charts to be our teachers. They're our
Hmm.
guides. This is our blueprint for
Yeah.
navigating this dispensation, this experience that we're having. So we don't, unless we're born into a family that is aware and understands and fosters who you are and gives you these great opportunities, you're going to have a lot to figure out. Some of us have more challenging charts than others.
Hmm.
Um, And it depends on the era. It depends on where you were, raised and what kind of trauma you've experienced, dysfunction. So we don't mean to say that his chart is all negative, right?
No,
We could
we're only
definitely,
talking about the negative aspects.
yeah, the stuff that we've seen,
Yeah.
that is exposed on on TV in the courts. So that's what we're talking about. There is positive aspects, although
Oh, yeah.
challenging.
Yeah.
Especially his chart is very challenging.
Mhm.
But we would make suggestions to him on how to balance his chart, how to
Yes.
see the shadow side of himself, to see that it is the shadow side. And here's
Mhm.
the best part. So even if for a second, sorry about my throat, even if for a second we were to say, what's the great aspects about, in case you have some of these animals in your chart,
Yeah.
what's the great aspects about the dragon?
Oh my gosh, it's magic. The
Mm-hmm.
dragon is magic. The dragon has the power to transform so much. It's yeah.
Mm-hmm. He's the
And
ultimate rebel, right?
yeah.
And but that can go bad or good,
Yeah.
right? We see what it did with his chart, but it can also be somebody who really pushes the limits. Steve Jobs was a dragon.
Yeah.
He's the one that exposed us to new technology and new ways of just, managing our day with the Apple computer, friendly, user friendly software. What about
Mhm.
the rabbit? Besides
Oh,
being promiscuous.
the rabbit is so sensitive.
Mm-hmm.
Rabbit is so sensitive and warm and kind, but
Yeah.
can be a little anxious and a little bit skittish and a little bit,
Yeah.
hyper aware of surroundings, which
Yeah.
again can be used in the positive or the negative.
Mm-hmm. Tell me about rats.
Oh man, the rat is the sign of the mind. It is
Mm. Mhm.
all about strategy. When you think about the rat, the only protection the rat has is the cover of night. Where it can hide. It's not a
Mhm.
fast animal.
Mhm.
I can remember at the beginning of 2020, I always find a video on YouTube that represents how the animal is show up. And I saw a video of someone who was at Costco and all of these rats were just running rampant in the rafters. And they weren't running fast. They were
No.
just taking a few steps and looking at the
Mhm.
humans like, what are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
Right? So they're the animal of strategy. They have to have a
Mhm.
strategy if they're going to be seen.
Yeah, and there's this, like, everything can be twisted, positive or negative. That
Yeah.
strategy, the sneakiness of the
Yeah.
rat, and then the pig is the Dalai Lama's a pig, right?
Yeah.
The pig energy is an earth angel, right?
Yeah.
They're giving, they're just over the top of like, how can I support you? What do you need? I'll do anything for you.
Yeah. Give you the shirt off
Charming.
my back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's always great aspects. I'm not sure we can say there's great aspects about having 0 in your charts,
Yeah.
because you're
That's
missing an opportunity.
I mean, if we're talking about him specifically, he figured out a way to create a little bit of wood in his
Mhm,
chart, just being a
mhm.
creative person and
Yeah,
creating films, right?
very well. Yeah,
So,
nice. So we're gonna introduce one more chart. It's still within the same context, and we
yeah.
will probably elaborate more in his chart as we get closer to the election.
Yeah.
I wanted to bring his chart in because I'm gonna pull it up here, and I want you to see if you see any similarities.
Well, yeah, right off the bat. What you create, it's your output. That's one of his lowest amounts.
Yeah. So if in
It's
case you
that
can't read
prime
the name on this is Donald J.
Donald
Trump.
Trump. Yeah.
Mhm.
So no one's gonna see me.
Mhm.
No one's gonna see what I'm doing behind the scenes. No one's gonna hold
Mhm.
me accountable.
Yeah.
He has no metal. Well, he's got 5% metal,
Yeah.
but yeah. And he has the same ping pong effect going on between what supports
Mhm.
him, which is fire, and his self, which is that earth energy. It's a ping pong effect. What can you do for me? What can you do for me? What can you do for me?
Mhm. Me.
Yeah,
Narcissistic.
yeah, yeah.
And
It's
no
like
control.
no control.
No
What
control. Nothing to
it's
control.
like, what did Kennedy say? It's not asking what my country can do for me, but what can I do for my country?
Yeah.
Donald Trump asks, "What can you do for me?"
Yeah. And you and you and you.
And you, and you, and you, and, "Oh, you're not doing for me, so what can you
Yeah.
do for
Yeah.
me?"
If you're not doing for me, I'm kicking you to the curb.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, one of the reasons why we brought up his chart is he is a convicted sex offender.
Yes.
He is a convicted rapist
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
to multiple women.
Yeah. And so now
Mul
we're dealing with that, in our court
Exactly.
system. And the, the the thing that's frustrates me the most is that Harvey Weinstein and this guy here, they that energy gets away with it.
Mhm.
They get away with it. Is it because of the structures were set up in place to help them get away with it? Because the structures were created by men, white men like them,
Mhm.
so that the systems and the structures allows them to get away with it and not be accountable and still continue to do what they do.
It's white colonialism. It's
Mm,
capitalism.
yeah.
It's all of the straight white old men get away with anything they wanna get away with.
Hmm.
No one's gonna hold them accountable.
Yeah.
That's the structure we're seeing burning to the ground, people. If you're as
Hmm.
angry about it as me and Tina are, these are the things that are breaking down. We're going to witness the breakdown of this system over the next 20 years.
Hmm.
We don't know how fast it's going to happen. We don't know how slow it's going to happen. We do know it's happening.
Yeah. And that's why we know it's happening because of the protests, because younger
Yeah.
people are getting involved. I think like the millennial and the the Gen Zers, there's a sense of when they see injustice, they can't tolerate it.
No,
And
they
we
can't.
we have to we have to say this is not allowed anymore. We
Hmm.
have to, whether it's our vote or you're into protesting or you're into voting with your, choosing with your money and where you choose to spend your money and what companies you're supporting. Um, we have we can we can change this. It's going to
Yeah.
change because that whole generation's going to eventually,
Yeah.
they're going to trickle away and
Well, the younger generations are taking over and they're saying, no,
mm,
this is not something that we can have in reality anymore. This is not a
yeah,
reality that's sustainable.
yeah, this isn't, yeah, right, because the
Mm-mm.
fire energy that we talked about, whether we want the change or not, it's happening. The
Yeah.
fire, and even the sun, right? The sun has been having these huge solar storms that has
Yeah.
been affecting us, our bodies. It's affecting the electrical field on the planet. Maybe that's why the computer, our technology was tweaked today.
Yeah.
Um, who
But I
knows?
mean, and me and you talk about this all the time. Our generations have to get on board with technology because that's the ship that's getting ready to sail. And if we're not on board with that and we don't know how to use that, ship's
Hmm.
going to sail without us,
Yeah,
right? That's why
exactly.
it's so challenging for me because I'm like, I really want to get it. I want to understand this, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
The older generation that we're talking about right now is they don't want to. They don't want
No.
to understand it. They have no use for it. They want what's for them. And they don't want things to change. That's what's
Mm.
fascinating about watching what's going on in the
Yeah.
world. The reason why there's conflict is because they're holding on, they're white knuckling it, right? They're not letting go of what's naturally going to be coming.
Hmm. Yeah, it's happening. So let's talk about the animals really quick, just in case somebody tuning in has these four animals.
Yeah.
I think the dog is a great animal in this pillar.
Yeah.
I think he's got a great four pillars, but there's negative
Yeah.
sides, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
The dog is just needy on a negative side. They need attention.
Yeah.
They need to be a
Please
part of the
pet me.
pack. Huh?
Please pet me.
Yes. They take me with you. Where are you
Right.
going? He's probably like a little puppy dog when he's at home. It's probably
Mhm.
just pathetic. Um, I don't I don't know. I'm not gonna get into how I visualize his sexual encounters, but I'm definitely seeing more of a passive
Oh,
a
100%.
passive role with the dog there. But it's a young fire dog,
Yeah.
which is gonna make him more of a reactive, barking and, you know, acting out. The
Yeah,
good
and
qualities of
nervous.
yeah,
Nervous and reactive.
anxiety. Mhm.
Very nervous.
Yeah.
A lot of the speeches you hear him a lot of what I've found in people that have a lot of, if they have a dog in their chart, they're actually pretty good at speaking. They're pretty good at delivering
Mhm.
messages.
Mhm.
But if a dog is anxious, it's gonna fumble over its words, and that's
Mm.
what he's famous for.
Mm.
He doesn't really know what he's talking about, and
No.
that would be an anxious dog trait.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. On a positive note, dogs are loyal on a positive side.
Yeah. I mean,
But
everything that you hear in the Boy Scout creed, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, brave, thrifty, reverent, like, all of those I know.
where did
Like I
that come
said,
from?
that Mormon church bullshit stays in your fucking mind for the rest of your goddamn life. I guess it's not the Mormon church, it's the Boy Scouts of America, but
Yeah.
if you're in Utah,
Mhm.
it's the same thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's
But
what the dog is. It's, all of those positive traits.
yeah, on a negative trait, though, we've heard him say, "If you're not loyal to him, you're
Off with
gone." Yeah.
mhm.
He demands loyalty, but
Yeah.
he's not necessarily loyal to you.
Mm-mm. No.
So he's got a horse in his mind pillar, his
Mhm.
ego. Horses are known to be egoic, very
Yes.
full of
"Look at
themselves. "Look at me." And
me.
it's
Aren't I
usually a hair
wonderful? Look at his hair."
there's always a
Oh,
hair thing with horses,
always.
right?
Always. Always. Yes. You have a horse in your chart. Yes.
Yeah.
And
Um,
interestingly enough, I will also tell I will and this is just the hairstylist in me, but I have also noticed a trend that if this is totally off subject. I'm not even talking about Donald Trump, but if if you're a woman and you have a horse in your chart, what I have found in my clients is they will always have a traumatic haircut story. And a lot of
oh,
the
yeah.
women keep their hair longer because if they
Mhm.
cut their hair off, it's like they feel like they're losing their power.
Mhm. Yeah, it
So,
happened to me.
and that's
Mhm.
possibly Donald Trump. He probably doesn't wanna get rid of the toupee or the comb over because he
Mhm.
might feel like he's losing his power.
Yeah, good
So,
point. But horses are free-spirited, they don't wanna be fenced in, don't wanna be told what to do,
yeah,
and they're reactive.
yeah.
What about the goat in this health pillar?
The goat in his health pillar. The goat, I like the goat because it's kind of a duality kind of a thing. Half
Mm,
of the sign is the goat. It's stubborn. It wants to climb the mountain. It kind of bucks up against authority. But then there's this other side that's really nice and compassionate and
mhm,
very. It wants to bring in their tribe. It wants to, hunker down with their people. It's a very
mhm,
family oriented animal.
mhm. Plus, the goat lives in the southwest corner of the feng shui compass, which is intimacy, feminine
Relation.
energy, and it's the sacral chakra or
Yeah.
yeah, the sacral chakra. So interesting. And usually health issues are gonna be gut related
Yeah.
because goats will eat anything.
Which is kinda weird because you would think he would have a lot more health problems because he eats McDonald's 3 times a day.
Mhm. He probably does.
Well, he does. He
Yeah.
wears diapers, so, I
Mm,
mean, he
yeah.
has gastrointestinal problems, major, so,
And it's also because he's almost half of his chart is Earth, and Earth
yeah,
is the stomach and the spleen and the pancreas and all of that.
yeah,
So that's definitely indigestion or the inability to digest what he's creating in his life.
and information too.
Yeah. Mhm.
He has the inability he can't digest information, which is why that's why he wants to do away with all of the really great organizations that are created in this country 'Cause he doesn't understand what the
Yeah.
hell any of them mean.
So I'm gonna let you talk about the snake.
Well, I've got a little experience with the snake because I was born the year of the snake. Now, the snake is really I love the snake part of my chart.
Mhm.
It's intuitive. The snake is
Mhm.
the intuitive. It's the psychic. It's the one that sees what other people can't see. It can sense and feel what other people can't sense and feel. However, it's also about manipulation and control, and
Mhm.
it wants to dominate because of its manipulation. It wants to stay in the bushes, and it wants to hide, but then it wants to strike out when no one
Mhm.
when people least expect it, right?
Yeah.
But like I said, the positive side is it transforms. Now, whether you like him or not, he really did transform history completely by
Yeah.
becoming president of the United States. Nothing will ever be the same
Yeah.
moving forward. So,
So true.
again, positive and negative.
Mhm.
Both of the charts that we've looked at today could have been really dynamic and powerful people in the positive too.
Mhm.
We get to take these elements of our own personal charts and make a choice to
Mhm.
decide if we're going to use it in the positive and negative. Me and Tina talk about this all the time because
Mhm.
she has a dog in her body pillar and I have a dog in my body pillar, and that's the animal that we struggle with. We
Mhm.
struggle with the dog because we do tend to be needy, but we also are so loyal that to a fault that we put everyone else in our lives first. So,
Mhm.
yeah, it's interesting.
It is. You wanna do the Western?
Yes.
Cool. Oh, wow.
Donald Trump's chart. Okay, so this is an interesting one. Donald Trump's rising sign is Leo. Leo is the sign of the king, and his ascendant is remember the ascendant or rising sign is that that sign that's right in between the 12th and the first house. It's that little
Mm.
yellow kind of
Oh.
swirl. Okay. And it's at 29 degrees. They call the 29th degree or 0 degrees a critical degree. And this specific critical degree is connected to an asteroid called the star Regulus. And the star Regulus is what they call the king maker.
Hmm.
Now, Leo is all about courage and the lion, ruling with the lion heart. And if you don't rule with the lion heart, that star becomes the king killer.
Oh, wow.
Another very strong individual in history had the king Regulus, or excuse me, the star Regulus, very strong and prominent in his chart, and that was Adolf Hitler.
Oh, shit.
So, if you are for or against him, regardless, if he's not ruling with the heart of the lion, if he's not
Mm.
ruling to the highest of his extent as a king, which we all know he wants to be king, not president,
Mhm.
it becomes the king killer. So
Wow.
just know that if he decides to do all of the things that he's wanting to do and he becomes the president, karma is a bitch.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
that's one of the major things that I notice about him. He's also, his sun shines in the sign of Gemini. Gemini is the sign of the twins, the good twin and the evil twin. You never know who you're going to get. This is why we see him flip flop on issues. Gay
Mm.
people are great. Kill the gay people. Women are
Mm.
great. Take all of their rights away. You know,
Mhm.
plays both sides of the fence, and then he does a lot of double talking.
Mhm.
And then he's a Sagittarius rising, and Sagittarians are totally synonymous. Excuse me, Sagittarius moon. Sagittarius shoot from the hip, and they sometimes they say the things that they shouldn't say, and they can't backpedal and take it back. So
Mhm.
yeah, I find his both of his charts very interesting.
Wow.
Right now, Jupiter, the planet of good fortune and abundance, just this week crossed over that arrow at the top of his chart that you can see pointing to that sign at the top, which is Taurus. That's his midheaven. Jupiter is the planet of good fortune and abundance. It just crossed over into his 10th house of fate, destiny, what he's supposed to do with his life. And it's going to stay in his 10th house for the next year. So,
Mm.
For all of the Donald Trump lovers out there, it looks really good for November.
It does. And
It
that's
does.
interesting because Thursday and Friday in the trial went in his favor,
Yeah.
with Cohen on the stand. So
Yeah,
that's,
and it's kind of interesting because, people who are watching or listening right now that are my friends can remember in 2016, I was researching the hell out of it because I did not want this to happen. I did not want it to happen. I was so freaked out. And so I went to three mentors, three astrological mentors, and I got their opinion, and they all said the same thing. So
mm,
just get ready, people. We're heading into a really interesting cycle in history. So,
yeah. Wowza. Look at that. Wasn't that a beautiful
oh,
transition
that was
though?
a good transition. I like that.
Yeah.
Hit the clapping thing.
Um, thank you. I need to have those tools a little bit
We're
closer.
we're learning. We're learning how to do this shit.
Oh my gosh, how do we end a conversation like this?
Well, I think that the thing that you know what? Let's just pull a card.
Let's do it.
I think that there's really not much more to say. I think we've said all of the things that we can
I
say.
think
Oh,
everybody knows where we stand.
all right. This is interesting. This is the Four of Air. The Four of Air, you can see this little horse you can see right
Mm,
there, and
mhm,
it's laying down, it's sleeping. So, the information that you've heard from the last episode and this episode, just take a moment to let it download. Just see
mhm,
how you feel about it. See how you think. How do you feel in your body? What do you think in your mind? What are the things that you can do over the next year while we're in this really intense energy to be
mhm,
taking a higher perspective? The first
mhm,
thing you can do is rest. When your body needs rest, take
mm.
rest. And, don't inundate yourself with things on the news and politics and
Yeah.
everything we've been talking about. It's important to stay informed, though. It's important to know what's going on and to be looking for the signs, looking for the connections. How do all of these connections relate to where we're personally going right now?
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, look where ask yourself, where am I resisting? Where am I getting if you're frustrated, if you're hurting, if you're angry, reactive, that's a resistance,
Yeah,
right? So what is somebody saying right now or what's happening that I'm, butting up against that I don't like? Can you
yeah,
shift it? Can you say, "Okay, oh, now I see it"? Because sometimes just that acknowledgement can
hmm,
shift the energy to go, "Oh, that's what that is? That's
yeah,
just an old trigger, or that's an old habit," or "Why am I letting them bother me so much?"
hmm,
And then shift your story. And
yeah,
I think that's another good conversation to have too, is about, and I think we've done some talking about that to this point, but how important it is to catch yourself amidst those lower vibration moments and redirect your energy.
hmm,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's good practice. It's an
Good
ongoing.
things, good things. Well, this week, I'm getting ready to launch my apprenticeship program. It's a 12-week
Mhm,
course. If you're interested, we're going to leave a link to book a discovery call with me. See if this is the course for you. It's Cosmic Fusion. It's alchemizing Western and Chinese astrology, putting them together. Part
mhm,
one is learning your Western natal astrology chart. By the end of 12 weeks, you'll be able to understand what all of those little glyphs and numbers and lines mean, and I'm really excited for it. So if you're interested, let's book a discovery call and see if it's the right fit.
Well, I love that we did this today because it's actually kind of perfect timing because I think people what they're seeing with you is that you're so good at explaining things. You're not talking over our heads. You say the conjunct or Pluto or whatever, but you explain it and you
Yeah.
help us relate to it rather
Yeah.
than it
Because,
being some mysterious kind of code
yeah,
that I have to learn.
what the fuck does conjunct mean?
I
Like,
know. I don't even know. And how long
people
have I
don't
known you?
know. And so
Mm,
if we can figure out a way to help each other understand these principles and understand that these are things, these are tools that are really going to be valuable just to
mm,
have on a personal basis. You don't have to take my course and become an astrologer. If you
mm-mm.
want to take my course and become an astrologer, I'm here for it. I'm here to
Yeah.
support you in that. But just understanding these cycles, understanding the language of astrology is going to be so helpful just in everyone's personal lives. We're seeing a huge mass exodus from religion right now. People
Hmm.
are
Hmm.
realizing that organized religion just isn't really helpful.
No.
People are empowering themselves to find their own spiritual path. Some people are look at astrology as just science and
Hmm.
numbers and just cycles
Hmm.
and planets, and that's fine. Some
Hmm.
people take a more spiritual approach to astrology. Either way you look at it, it's valuable information that can be really helpful.
Yeah, because it's not it's gonna stay crazy for a bit. And we,
It's not
how
changing.
awesome to be able to look at your own chart and be able to read it and go, "Oh, that's what's happening. I'm gonna go sleep for the
Yeah.
rest of the day." Or I'm gonna go make all those phone calls I have to make and get the word out there. So I know you and I and other people that do the work that we do,
Mhm.
I don't know what I would do without my folder of my family's charts,
Oh,
Western and
100%.
Eastern, human design, and look at it and go, "Oh, okay, now this makes sense. Okay,
Yeah.
mm-hmm,
Yeah. And
I get
the
it."
other thing that is really fun and kind of cool about, understanding astrology is if I'm freaking out about something, I can text Tina and I'll be like, "What is this?" And she's like, "It's your freaking rabbit.
Mm,
Your
yeah,
rabbit's freaking out."
mm-hmm,
Right? And if I know where my rabbit is in my chart and why it's freaking out, I know what I can do to nurture that energy. I know what I can
mm-hmm,
do to help me make it through that difficult space. Same
yeah,
thing with Western astrology. I can be like, where the hell is the moon today? And why is the energy doing this crazy shit? There's always an explanation, right?
uh-huh, yeah. It's so cool.
Yeah,
I
it's
just,
fun.
yeah, it's the best. Well, you're the best,
You
Jeremy.
are.
And if you're
I
listening to
really love
us,
you.
you're the best.
Yeah. Join us in being the best. Comment
Jeremy
below.
introduced.
What was that?
I
What
was
were
going
you
to
going to
say
say?
you introduced me to some IKEA furniture, and we love it because it's called the Besta.
The best stuff, right?
Besta, you got to have the Besta.
You need to have some Besta in your life, in your house. Um, Comment below some of your thoughts of the conversation today.
Yeah.
What are some things that you're noticing in your life? What is your experience? What is your experience that you're going through right now that relates to the conversation that we spoke about today? Where in life
Mm,
are things too intense? What is your opinion about the charts that we went through today? Are you seeing some of those same cycles in some of the men in your own life?
mm.
What are the things that are going on? We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you, and thank you for saying that. And I can't say enough how much we love those comments and your
Yeah.
likes. That just it boosts us up. It gives us momentum and excitement to do this again. So, shall we close with that? That was a heavy
Yes,
one, but
it
it's the
was.
weekend. Well, we're not going to post this until next week. So, whatever day it is that you're listening to this, take care of yourself out there and
Yeah.
be gentle on yourself, and the world.
Yeah.
Everybody's everybody's got that little inner child who's afraid,
Mhm.
that needs comfort, that needs love, that needs to know that it's safe and everything's going to be okay. So it might be you, it might be your little inner child, it could be some asshole on TV that you don't like. Maybe just send them some love and
Mhm.
see if we can change the world that way.
I love that. That's beautiful.
Okay.
Thanks everyone for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.